Good day, everyone. So, our topic is all about the purposes of communication. Reporters, Jorre Christian James, and Maloloy-on Maria Christine. So, according to Tony Rubens, to effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. So, according to him, that we have different ways in communicating others. So it can be verbal or non-verbal. So communication. Communication is simply the act of transferring information from one place, person, or group to another. So there are purposes of communication, various purposes of communication. It can be informative, affective, imaginative, persuasive, and ritualistic. When we say informative communication, it is called a message that are objective, truthful, and unbiased. For example, news. Sa TV news, sing ana. So that is one example of informative communication. So, affective communication. When people express their positive and negative feelings. So, for example, sharing your friends about your experience in life, the sad and the happy experience. So, imaginative communication. It is the appreciation of fictional messages from books, films, and conversation. So, some people use imaginative communication when they want their niece to sleep. So they use a storyteller so that their children will have a beautiful sleep. So in persuasive communication, it means that people attempt to influence the beliefs or action of others. So for example, your parents trying to force you into taking a course that is not in your passion. So that is one of the example of persuasive communication. So ritualistic communication. When we say ritualistic communication, people are able to meet social expectation. So for example, social media sites such as Facebook. So we are able to post and some of the users will participate our post our information, and that is why we can create a forced online community because some of them will be following in your Facebook. That is the example of ritualistic communication. So let's proceed. Why do people communicate? So why people communicate? It is a part of our life. We communicate because we want to express our feelings, aspiration, dreams, experience, and whatever is that. So, people communicate because they want to inform. Informants to impart knowledge, to clarifying information. Like for example, teacher discussing topics about anything that can share information. To evoke. So we communicate because we want to evoke. So evoke is to rely a passion and controversy to make a point. So for example, sharing your ideas about the point that you drew that relates your life. So when you share about it, it express feelings because that drawing is related to your life. It can be happy, sad, or whatever is that. So next is to entertain. So we communicate because we want to entertain. For example, we want to make our loved ones to be happy. Example, singing a song, making a funny jokes. It is some example of entertain. Next, to argue. When we say to argue, it is to persuade, to assent to the possibility of communication side to debate question. So, for example, your parents are arguing about money, or your friends have misunderstanding, so they want to point out their ideas that they are right. Next is the kind of speech according to purpose, and this topic is reported by Christian James Jorre.
Okay, good day to each and everyone. So I am going to continue our report about purposes of communication. By the way, I am Christian James Jorre, and I am the partner of Maria Christine Maloloy-on. So I will be going to report the kind of speech according to purpose. So first is informative speech. According to Osborne 1988, an informative speech gives rather than ask or taste. Informative is a lecture given by a teacher in a high school or college class is an example of an informative speech. A manager in a retail store giving a presentation to her staff about how to explain a new product line to customers would also be an example of an informative speech. So there are 4 types of informative speech: the definition speeches, demonstration speeches, explanatory speeches, and descriptive speeches. So the next is the persuasive speech. So Grunbeck 1994 explains that persuasive speaking is the process of producing oral messages that increase personal commitment, modify beliefs, attitudes, or values. So persuasive speaking also is the type of speaking that most people engage in the most. This type of speech can involve everything from arguing about politics to talking about what to eat for dinner. And also, persuasive speaking is very connected to the audience, as the speaker must, in a sense, meet the audience halfway. For example, a teenager attempting to convince her parents that she needs to be able to stay out until 11 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. So, the next one is the argumentative speech. So, this is a speech that aims to persuade the audience to assent to the plausibility of the speaker's side of debatable question. And argumentative speech also is a persuasive speech in which the speaker attempts to persuade viewpoints on a controversial issue. Argumentative speech aims to radically change the opinions already held by the audience. So there are different types of arguments: the deductive and the inductive arguments. Type 1, the deductive arguments. Type 2, the inductive arguments. Type 3, the Tolman argument. Type 4 is the Rogerian argument. So next is I am going to report the kind of speech according to delivery. First, the read speech. So, or the, shall we call, manuscript speaking. Manuscript speaking is the word-for-word iteration of a written message. From the word written, it is written or reading. In a manuscript speech, the speaker maintains his or her attention on the printed page except when using visual aids. And the advantage to reading from a manuscript is the exact repetition of original words. As we mentioned at the beginning of this chapter, in some circumstances this can be extremely important. So the next is the memorized speech. So memorized speaking is the rote recitation of a written message that the speaker has committed to memory. So actors, of course, recite from memory whenever they perform from a script in a stage play or television program or a movie scene. So try to look at for some actors, they recited their scripts. That is the memorized speech, one example of memorized speech rather. So the advantage to memorization is that it enables the speaker to maintain eye-to-eye contact with the audience throughout the speech. And being free of notes means that you can move freely around the stage and use your hands to make gestures. So the third one is the impromptu speech. So impromptu speaking is the presentation of a short message without advanced preparation. Impromptu speeches often occur when someone is asked to say a few words or give a toast on a special occasion. So there are advantages and disadvantages of the impromptu speaking. The advantage of this kind of speaking is that it's spontaneous and responsive in an animated group context. The disadvantage is that the speaker is given little or no time to contemplate the central theme of his or her message. So as a result, the message may be disorganized or difficult for listeners to follow. That is the disadvantage of the impromptu speaking. So the last one is the extemporaneous speech. So extemporaneous speaking is a presentation of a carefully planned and rehearsed speech spoken in a conversational manner using brief notes. So by using notes rather than a full manuscript, the extemporaneous speaking can establish and maintain eye contact with the audience and assess how well they are understanding the speech as it progresses. So, and speaking extemporaneously has some advantages. So it promotes the likelihood that you, the speaker, will be perceived as knowledgeable and credible. And in addition, your audience is likely to pay better attention to the message because it is engaging both verbally and non-verbally. So that's the disadvantage of extemporaneous speaking is that it requires a great deal of preparation for both the verbal and the non-verbal components of the speech. Adequate preparation cannot be achieved the day before you scheduled to speak. So that's all for our report, and thank you for listening. Bye bye.